this is kind of outdated too, but it shows like all the development that would happen in the United States because of the tar sands. The tar sands is happening because of the United States consumption of oil. Addiction to oil, yeah. So these are all the different, yeah. So you can see like all the different proposed pipelines from Alaska. And it's really interesting because the tar sands, here, let me get another one of my little educational tools. Okay, so this is what it is. Tar sands is like,
that's what the oil companies
yeah, goes through this process, right? It's dirt, basically. It's dirt mixed with oil. It's just oily dirt. And in order to get to it, they have to do clear cut. They have to clear cut the forest, dig off a whole top layer, and then start digging into the actual ground to get access to this. Then they have to go through a process to separate it into, like to take the sand out, and then to make that regular oil, and these are like the byproducts of it. The possible area that they want to do is the size of Florida, of all tar sands development. And the rivers, they run north in Canada, right? So all the communities, the native communities that live downstream are all being affected with lots of cancer. And the communities that we work with are in this place called Fort Chipewyan, which are Mikisew Cree and Athabascan Chipewyan First Nations and Métis. We just went there in August, meet Tom Clayton and I for a meeting that they had there. And something that you have to understand about that community too is it's pretty much a subsistence community. Like most of the food comes from fishing and hunting, not from buying it at the store. And the animals are sick, you know, like they find, when I was there, we found a fish, someone pulled a fish out of the water that had 2 mouths. It was deformed, yeah. Yeah, if you're my friend on Facebook, you would have seen the picture. And, you know, just like tumors and like within animals that they're hunting, but they still eat it because that's their culture and that's how they get their food, and so they're ingesting that sickness into them too. So that's why we approach these things as like it's a human rights issue, because for Indigenous people who still live off the land, if their land is being contaminated, then they're being contaminated too. And you know, and their milk too, yeah, and to their babies. So it's, you know, you can put up as many fish advisories as you want, but people are not necessarily going to stop eating fish, you know. So the way I think about it, it's like another colonization tactic to try and get us to buy into the system, you know, and become just like regular average Americans who buy their food at the store rather than growing it or catching it, you know. So this is a really important project. I think that, I mean, it's a really important issue because it has long-reaching effects. A lot of people are working on the tar sands issue right now, which is great. But it's a good illustration for us because it shows how it connects communities along this thing that we like to call the road of destruction. So if they're building a pipeline from Alaska to the tar sands, which is funny because in order to operate the tar sands, you have to use energy too. And like, I think it's to develop tar sands, it's like 4 times as much, it's probably in here, 4 times as much, you know, carbon dioxide produced and pollutants produced than regular oil development, because you have to go through this whole process. And it's crazy when you go there, like, and you were able to flying from Fort McMurray to Fort Chipewyan is, we asked the pilot, you know, it's like 6 people plane, and we asked the pilot, can you fly over the tar sands? And so he flies over it and down into it. You get a headache automatically. You know, it's bad. You see like these big piles of trees that they just burn because it's not profitable to use it for anything else. So they just get rid of this pristine forest. And it's just really bad. And they have these, because sulfur worldwide is, they have too much sulfur. So there's like these big mountains of sulfur just sitting there. It's just crazy. I've never seen anything so, like, on such a massive scale of destruction. And then they have to do, there's proposed, like, uranium minings in Canada, oil drilling in Alaska, pipelines from Alaska to power the tar sands, to create oil to bring it down into these other native communities. So a lot of the times the point that we try to make is at each point along the production line is native communities. Purposefully, you know, because for whatever reason, because we don't have any political power, you know, because for some reason we actually just live on a lot of these areas where there's a lot of fossil fuel resources, because, you know, a lot of times our tribal governments are not representative of the people, and, you know, we're in an economic hostage situation where we depend on fossil fuel extraction to have an economy on our land. So